discuss the differences between measures and columns, and then just give you a few suggestions as far as how to write DAX expressions and what kind of syntax it's best to use. So for example, I've got two tables in this particular Power BI file. One is alumni and then alumni info. And if I were to look at the first one, when I'm clicking on the fields, the columns are highlighted. So that's your first one. We've got 4 fields and 4 columns. When I go to alumni info, you can see that I've got 1, 2, 3 columns, but if you look on the side, I actually have 4 fields. How come? So I'm going to click on this one that has a tiny calculator right next to it, and nothing is selected because it's a measure. So measures are invisible in the tables. You can see the formula that we use to write this measure, but you cannot trace it directly to the column. So that's the big difference between a column and a measure for you. And in fact, when I just first started Power BI in Excel, I was trying to wrap my head around how the two similar and how they're different. Well, if I look back to Excel, you can click on a particular cell. Well, here if I'm trying to click on the cell, what do I select? I actually go into the column. So Power BI thinks in columns and in a full table, but you cannot select a particular cell. And that's where new measures sometimes are helpful, because for me they almost work somewhat as a cell when I need a particular one value and I can drill down straight to this one. So let's try to create the first measure for us. Sometimes when I try to go up here and say new measure, new measures could be created anywhere among between these two tables. It might be convenient, might be not. Sometimes you want it in a particular, kind of tied to a particular table, even if you cannot see it. So my suggestion would be to come up to the table, right click on that particular table and select new measure that way. Then you know it will end up in this particular table. But again, see, it's kind of in whatever order it wants to be. So here is the first measure for us. And what I want to do is very basic formula. We're going to count number of alums that we have. So I'm going to type number of alumni, and I put equal. And we will be using a count DAX expression. So the minute I put C, look at that. Just like it is in Excel, if you've ever written a formula in Excel, instead of going to the formulas and looking it up, it comes up with a list of DAX expressions that starts with the C, a lot of them. So I'm going to maybe go and type a couple more letters. Here's your count. And if I click on the count or the next one, see, I'm not selecting it just yet. So I have an option to view and read on the side. Is it what I want, or do I want this one, or do I want this one? And they're slightly different. So count and counts just the numbers in a column, and count A, it's the number of values. So we have this as numerical value. Okay, so here's your count formula. The minute you double click, it is truly selected. And now right underneath, it tells you an example of a syntax it wants you, a DAX expression, it wants you to keep it in. So that's very important. Kind of make a mental note that count, it already opened the parentheses for you, and now it's looking for column name. That's why it's in bold. So you have an option of a whole table being selected, another whole table, see, it's kind of lighter gray, or you can go with a column, because in the tables here the gray columns are selected. So I'm going to go with the alumni name. Okay, then I'm going to close this parentheses. I think I clicked on something wrong up here. Close the parentheses. Now I ended up with 2. And I've got to underline red DAX. And I'm going to hit enter. Is it there? Well, we can't really see it because remember they're invisible, but I do see it on the side up here. So I'm going to come to the dashboard and visualize it. All I do is, here's my little card. If I click on the number of alums, I ended up with 11. Yes, it is there even though it's invisible. And if I get rid of it, it's gone with my card. So this is an explanation of a measure for you.